Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Affinity Podcast. Today we have with us Chet, who smashed the journey, finished it, and has dropped amazing weight. Alongside we have Nick as well. Yeah. Nick, do you have anything to say?
No, man, just welcome Chet on. I think his insights will be really great for anyone that's listening this, thinking of starting a journey, getting started, sort of maybe in a position where they don't know where to start, or just a little bit fed up, because I think that's a similar position to where Chet was when he started. It's like he knew he wanted to do something, but just didn't know where to start with it. So yeah, man, without further ado, Chet, just introduce yourself, man. Just
Yeah,
come
yeah.
on, say hi, and just let people know who you are, and yeah, a little bit about yourself.
Of course, yeah. Hi, I'm Chet, right? Hit the 50 mark this year, right? So big milestone. Married, two girls, one's at uni, one's doing her A levels, at home with mum and sister. So yeah, that's kind of me. Working, obviously, consulting project manager. So yeah, kind of busy lifestyle, like everybody else.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Yeah, Vinay, go on, dive in. Ask Chet his first question.
Main question, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. Chet, everyone's got a point in life where they decide, okay, enough's enough and I need to do something, right? What was it for you? Why did you decide that you needed a change? Why now, after all these years, and what led you to it?
I'll go back a good few years ago, Vinay. So my sister was on the Affinity program with Nikhil and with Jamie for a number of years. She did it for a good few years, and you saw the difference she made. I mean, there used to be a point where she used to come home and goes, protein this, protein that. I've got to eat this, got to eat that. And I was like, what are you doing, man? You're going to kill yourself. Just eat normal food. What's your problem? But there was a reason why she was doing all of that. And you could see the difference in her. And she kept pushing me, do it, Chair. And I kind of just pushed back and let it be. Then obviously a couple of years back, we went on holiday, a family trip with my cousin. All great, I had a brilliant holiday. But then I looked back and I looked at those pictures and I thought, oh my God, Chet, you've got to really sort this out. Pictures don't look good. You're getting older. You need to be a bit more healthier. And just get in shape. You're not gonna lose everything just like that, but at least start working on it. So that's what kind of triggered it. Those pictures, and it's not just that one holiday. It's been multiple holidays. That you look back and you look at those pictures and you think, nah, this is not right. So it was a case, right? Okay, I got back, and then it was a conversation with Nikhil. Saying, look, I need to do this. I need help, basically. And I need some kind of support and guidance in terms of shedding that weight. And losing that kind of fat. So yeah, I spoke to Nikhil, and then off we kind of got going.
Previously in the past, when like Hina, for example, your sister had pushed you or said like, "Oh, go and do it," like what stopped you, or why would you just brush it under the carpet? What was the things that was just like, nah, not right now, or whatever sort of things?
There's more about laziness, Nikhil. Just being lazy, can't be bothered. Probably not in the right frame of mind at the time. About okay, I want to lose the weight, and probably other factors outside of me, like home and work and stuff, that kind of prevented me from doing it.
Yeah.
But as much as I used to think that, oh yeah, I'm exercising, I'm eating right, I clearly wasn't. Okay, but you think, mentally you think, yeah, I'm doing all right. I don't eat 3 meals, 4 meals a day. I only eat 1 or 2 meals a day. You think you're losing weight, you're gonna do all right, but it doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. Um, so there's a lot of factors I think, right? Yeah, that kind of said, okay, I need to kind of do this, and the things that stopped me from doing it from before was just pure laziness and not not getting my act together.
Did you ever sort of go through a phase where I think I certainly was there when I lost weight, and I obviously did it sort of many years ago and things like that. I got to a point almost where I was just like kind of accepting of my fate, where I was just like, you know what, this is how I'm meant to be. Like, it's fine. I'm the larger guy. I'm meant to be the bigger guy. Like that is my destiny. That's my fate. That's just the role that I am meant to play in life. Was there an element of that or
Yeah,
that sort of narrative where you're telling yourself like, ah, this is just who I am. Like, like
yeah,
this is who I'm meant to be sort of thing.
absolutely, Nico. And I look back and I think, yeah, okay, look, I'm a big guy. this is who I am. This is how it's meant to be. Nothing's going to really change. Whatever I try, it's not going to change. Pretty much like you said it, and actually look back, Nikhil, to what you were before. Because we had this conversation quite some time ago, and you showed me your pictures. Even Hina used to tell me like, "Oh, do you not remember Nikhil from before?" I don't, right? But she goes, "Look, this is what it was like. It was just like you." Right, okay, yeah, pretty much the same. And you go on holiday, you're buying big clothes, really large shirts, just to t-shirts to hide the kind of fat, right? And not feeling great about where you go and what you do, you know. And you're right, you go on holiday and you go into the beach or you go to the pool, right? And it's like, oh, do I really have to take my top off? I don't really want to do that. And
Mm,
and
yeah.
that kind of happened for a very long time, but came back and I did nothing about it until my most that trip a couple of years back. I thought, right, okay, I do need to kind of change.
And now looking back at that, like you'll probably never let yourself get to that point again, right? It's just like, no, wait, like I've put
Oh,
in all of this hard work that I'm not gonna.
absolutely. Like Vinay used to say to me, Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So that body weight that I had, took me years to build up. Okay, right, and to get that level, and I laugh about it and I say, yeah, that was hard work to get to that really good, big built level, right? But that's a lot. It's just more of a laugh, right? Yeah, but you know, to lose that, Vinay's always said it's not going to happen all overnight, right? And don't expect miracles, right? This will take you time, and which I've accepted, and it has taken time. I'm not going to deny it, but I look back and I think, right, I do not want to go back to where I was, right? And I don't think I will,
I don't
with the
think it will.
mindset that I've got now.
You got a great mindset, and I think just the routine that you've built for yourself is really, really great. Like there's no slipping out of that unless you were to do something drastically wrong, which I don't even think there's an opportunity to do.
Yeah.
Um, could you articulate for the listeners and our audience just right now, sort of where are you now? Tell me about your results, how many kilos down you are, changes in sort of clothing sizes, energy, mood, lifestyle in general.
Mhm.
Like, where is Chet at now? What's the result?
So I started the program with Affinity at what 110 kgs. Yeah, okay. I'm recording 88.2 at the moment, right? In terms of like my clothing, yeah, I from being buying triple to 4XL clothing, I'm down to buying XL kind of clothing. So I'm nowhere near where I want to be, right, to getting large or medium, but that's a big difference in terms of inches when you think about triple X, 4XL, 3XL down to just a single XL.
Yeah,
So that alone feels great, right? Because when you go shopping, right, you can go and look at normal clothes, right, as opposed to trying to find places to get the bigger clothes,
Mm.
right? And then obviously I've got my girls that are saying, "Oh, Dad, you can wear this now. You can kind of do this kind of thing." It's nice. Um, in terms of like my lifestyle, it's different. It's completely different, right? My mindset, my mood, everything has changed, and losing that weight, it just makes your mind fresher, right? Okay. It helps you concentrate, yeah, and you feel good about yourself, you're calmer. Even my wife, she says it. She goes, "Man, what a difference there is in terms of just where you are as a person now compared to what you were a year and a half ago." So a huge difference. You know, and you feel better going out doing things. You know, so there's so many benefits, right? Yeah, in terms of what's happened in the last 18 months, right? And you feel wonderful. You really do. And your lifestyle changes as well, because you feel so much more energetic, you know, you doing the workouts, eating the right foods, right? Yeah, you've naturally got a bounce in you, which I didn't have before. Before it's all about being lethargic and just sitting around doing nothing, watching TV, and then eating, constantly eating. Now it's not like that at all, right? There are days when I'm sitting down and I'm like, oh, mate, I'm bored because I need to go and do something. I need to keep active, need to keep doing, keep moving. And you feel, because you've got the energy to do that now, so that makes a big difference.
Awesome, man. Really,
And
really.
100% like you said, right? And you kind of touched on it a bit right now, how you feel and how everything is. Just in brief words, how was it before you joined Affinity to compare to like your day-to-day activity now? If you were to describe in a few words a day before joining Affinity and a day in your life now, being 18 months on the program.
Oh, if I go back 18 months ago and how I was, um, I wouldn't be moving as much. Yeah, okay. It will be a case of you wake up, you have your breakfast, and when I say breakfast is like it's a proper breakfast. It's your chai, your toast, and then your nasto, and then it's like a lunch. Like you may have sandwiches, kind of loaded sandwiches, and then dinner's proper shackletly, not controlled, right? Yeah, the 3, 4 Rotleys, RMT, you just kind of you knock it back, and once you finish all of that, you're sitting down in front of the box, and I'm not moving, you know. Whereas now, it's very different, right? It's get up, you're up early, right? Get to the gym, do your workout, get that bounce in your leg, right? Okay, start the day off that way, come back. If I'm in the office, get ready, hop on off to the office. If not, do the bits I need to do at home. Breakfast is a bit later, but then your breakfast is controlled, right? Because you know what you're going to eat. You've kind of planned that out. Lunch is prepared. You know what you're going to have, right? Dinner, you've planned your dinner, right? And it's only what you can have. And the evening, even if you're sitting there and you are watching TV, you know that throughout the day you've done enough to allow you to have that kind of bit of chill time in the evening. Or if you haven't done enough, then, do something in the evening, either get on the walking pad or go out for a walk. So your mind, everything changes massively, because like I said earlier, it's that you've got that bounce in you now to do stuff and have that motivation and the energy to do it. Whereas previously I didn't have that energy.
Absolutely, man. It's really interesting that you say this because I remember our first conversation, when we sort of tried to pinpoint the areas that you're potentially going wrong at. And I remember you saying, like, Nick, I don't know, like, I'm not eating that badly. If I look at it, like, my food, this is what I'm having throughout the day. And a lot of people say that. No one comes to us in a position where they're eating like McDonald's breakfast, burger and fries for lunch, and then pizza for dinner, right? But it's always a little sort of 1% things which could do with tightening up that then gets you the overall result.
Yeah.
So it's very cool that you're now able to see like and pinpoint exactly, these are the things that weren't serving me well and that I was doing wrong. And then these are the things I can do now, where I am doing now, which are allowing me to move forward essentially. Because I believe when you first started, it was almost a bit like I'm working out, I'm making sure that I'm not eating too much. Sometimes I even skip lunch because I'm so busy. I remember you saying, I'll just have like a handful of nuts or something like that, at lunchtime because I'm so busy at work. I don't know what I'm doing wrong, Nick. But now you've got this routine built, which is just
Yeah.
allowing you to see the results and stuff, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's all about that. It's what you guys have taught me. It's about getting that plan in place. Right? Just mapping out what you're going to do for the week. Just be ahead of the game. Right? So prepare your food. And I'll be the first to admit it. Right? At the beginning, I was like, oh, this is so much effort. This is a headache. I can't be doing this. But you get into it. You get used to it. Right?
Just need to
Yeah.
see the
And
first 2 or 3 weeks of results,
yeah.
right? Just see that it works, and then you
Yeah.
can.
And then you get going, right? And then you know that it's like you've always said, right? Yeah, you have your staple kind of breakfast, right? Just rotate them week after week. You have your staple kind of lunches, right? And your staple kind of dinners. Just chop them around, change them around. That's all you've got to do, right? Okay. And it works, right? Yeah. And you know what you can eat and what you can't eat. And you learn, right? Okay, over time. Okay, look. I have that bit of 𝐸𝐿. Before, when you have that bowl of 𝐸𝐿 and then you wait and you work out, whoa, that's just killed my calorie count for the day, right? Okay. Now it's like, okay, maybe 1 teaspoon or a couple of spoons, right? And you stick to that. Now, I'll be the first to admit it, right? And Vinay knows this very clearly, right? Yeah, I have fallen off the kind of bandwagon here and there, right? Okay. And I've slipped, right? Because I know that had I not slipped over the 18 months, I'd probably be a lot more. I would have lost a lot more, right? Yeah, I let myself go here and there, but you kind of let yourself go, and then you think, oh, man, what am I doing? What's going on here? And you look in the mirror again. You think, right, I need to get back on it, have a chat with Vinay, right, and get back on track. The beauty is that whenever I have slipped, Not once has Affinity, Vinay, my coach, right? Yeah, kind of like knocked me back and said, "What you doing? What's going on?" Like and come down hard on me. It's more about the encouragement, to get back on track again. Right? And that's the beauty, and the food stuff, right? It's like you've always said to me, eat everything. You can eat all of your food that we as Indians eat, right? Yeah, okay. But you just control what you eat. Yeah, that's all it is. Like you saw my food pictures, and I know I love my shakotli, right? Okay, right. So I have that pretty much a lot, but I can have all of that, but just within reason. You just control what you can eat, and don't go overdo it. So it
100%.
works.
I think it's natural though, man. It's a very real and authentic answer.
And
Look, this journey is going to have so many ups and downs in it. And what you've explained for yourself, like falling off the wagon or sort of going through those phases, completely natural, man. I think the difference is that you are able to recover from it quite quickly. Like you have your moments and then you recover from it quite quickly. You get back on track and you start moving forward again. I mean, this year you turned 50 with it was I think I can't count the number of holidays that you've had across the last 18-month period with us. You've had trips, you've had what's it called, like parties and all different sorts of events and things like that, which you haven't held back at, right? You've not restricted yourself from them. You've just gone into them with a different mindset.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and I'll be the first to admit, right, yeah, when there's a certain event happening, right, okay, I know I'll prepare for that, and yes, I've gone out and I've drunk, and I'm probably overdrunk, right, yeah, but that's it's one of those kind of celebrations that you kind of do it, right, okay, right, whether it's my event or my daughter's or whoever's it might be, but you've done it, right, okay, and yes, I'll pay the price, over the next few days, but I've then got right, okay, I've done it. I've enjoyed myself. Okay, now sort it out, Chet. Now get back on the regime. Get back on the track again. And that's what that's what you do. So, you know, don't go out. Don't not have fun. Have fun. You know, go out and have fun and enjoy your life like you normally would. But just be mindful of what you eat and drink. Right? And if you are going to go and overdo it, yeah, okay, because of a certain event, then just pull yourself back in very quickly, and that's what happens. We're all human, and we've all got to enjoy life as well as stick to our kind of limits.
100%. What's
I
been
think
sorry.
one thing to touch on there, sorry, one thing there is basically, as you said, Chet, right? There has been times when you've struggled. Me, Nick, Jamie, all of us, we've through our processes of weight loss, there's been times where we're like, oh yeah, fuck this shit, it's not working, or whatever. We've questioned it, right? And you've done the same. But the biggest difference I've seen coaching you is that when that's happened, you've not shied away and you've not said, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this alone. You actually said, oh shit, I'm struggling, or can we have a chat? And I find that's a big difference when people kind of not do that. In your case, you have done that. Did you feel like ever at that point or throughout the 18 months, like you can't approach us to say, actually, you know what, I can't talk to you or I can't do this?
No, never at all. Never at all. So my wife and so Vinay, you're my coach, right? Yeah, my wife and Hina, they know Jamie very well. Okay, from outside of Affinity. And I've seen Jamie outside of Affinity, right, out and about, and I'll even talk to her on the odd occasion before she gallivanted off to Kenya, right? Okay, um, but I'd speak to her, right, on the occasion and just get her advice, get her take on certain things. But never once do I feel afraid to speak to any one of you, right? If I'm struggling or if something's not working, it is Vinay, look, help me with this. I can't work it out. What do I do? What's the right approach? So yeah, it's anybody from Infinity is approachable. No, nobody's not approachable, if you know what I mean.
Excellent, man. I just want to ask you about a little bit more about sort of the experience with us as well, just because we're on that topic. Obviously, the way that we work is slightly different to your conventional PT. So when you'd heard from Hina about this way of working and it's online and it's remote and things like that, versus sort of being with someone in the gym, was there any hesitation to it? Do you see sort of the benefit to it now and things like that and how it sort of works?
Um, Initially, yes. Well, I was like, okay, how's this work, right? Yeah, how do these guys keep a track of where I am, what I'm doing. I could sign up to this, right, and in the background still do my own kind of thing, right? Yeah. And I was like, how's this even going to work? You know, because I'm not seeing Vinay face to face. So yeah, over calls and messages, fine, but I'm not meeting him on a regular basis. But as you start going through that journey and the material or the tools that you give us, right, yeah, to to control and to manage this, right, it kind of makes sense, you know, right, because the daily check-ins, right? Yeah, the constant pinging from Vinay, you know, right? Okay, where are we, Chet? How's it going? You know, what's the plan today, etc. You know, it keeps you on your toes, right? Okay, the the MyFitnessPal, you know, right? Logging and putting things on there, right? Yeah, and Vinay tracking that as well. And then obviously you've got True Coach, right? Yeah, so all of the tools are there, right? Okay, for it to work. Yeah, initially I thought, okay, how is this even going to work? But it does, you know, even though I won't see you face to face, you know, like you do in the gym, right? Okay, but with the tools and the way it's structured does work, you know, because it you're on my case, you know, in the nicest possible way, right? You're on my case and you check where are we, what's going on, you know, and the fortnightly progress pictures, the measurements, etc. You know, that's what's keeping you on top, saying, right, okay, 2 weeks, got to do something to get to another level in 2 weeks, and again in 2 weeks, and again in 2 weeks, you know. So it makes a difference, huge difference.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Thank you.
That's it, right? And as you said it, right, it's been our 18 months. Yes, we've come to the end of the process. Yes, your journey is not finished and you're going to carry on yourself. And again, if you ever need help, we will be always be here. But I just want the listeners to kind of get your take on it. Originally, when you signed up for a 6 months program, what the program is for, you've renewed, I think, 2 to 3 times. I want to get your take on it. Why did you renew? What benefit did you see for the renewal?
I think so. In all honesty, Vinay, Nick, right? Yeah, what you guys teach us, right? If you think about it logically, it's not rocket science. Yeah, okay. Um, Control what you're eating. You know, here's a calorie number, right? Stick to that. Measure, control, do that. Do your workouts, do your gym, right? It's not rocket science, but without somebody watching over you or guiding you, right, it's so difficult to do by yourself, you know, right? It's very hard, you know, as much as everybody, people may think, oh, yeah, yeah, I can do that, I can do that. It's not that easy. So did the first 6 months, right? And I had great results. Yeah, okay. But I hadn't finished my journey, you know, right? Okay. And even today, 18 months later, I still haven't finished my journey, right? But I've learned so much. Did the first six, then it was the first renewal was a natural renewal. It was going to happen. I had to do it. When it came to my kind of the next renewal, I was umming and ahhing, yeah. But I thought, no, I want to continue because I just need that bit more control. I need that support, you know, just to get to the next kind of milestone, you know. And it's that accountability, you know. I've got somebody, you know, oh, I'm accountable to, you know, okay, right. Somebody just checking in on me, you know, somebody give me the right plan, you know, etc. You know, and the right advice, you know, because you're good at what you do, and that makes a big difference, you know. So even if you've kind of even if you've shedded so much weight in the first 6 months, that doesn't mean that you're done, you know, okay, right? There's more to come, right? Yeah. And having that level of support is what kind of pushed me to renewing twice with Affinity, you know, and it's made a difference, a huge difference.
Amazing, bro. Amazing.
And with that as well, right? Like just a final point, it's an investment. Like people do stocks, ISAs, people do all these things, invest in money and stuff, right? Um, you have you've invested your hard-earned money for it. Did you ever feel, oh my God, I'm giving away X amount and I'm not getting something in return? Because it's a question people generally ask. Oh my God, I already paid X amount already for the first 6 months. I know I've learned it. Why should I pay that again?
Yeah, so then you can, I would have paid you an X amount for the first 6 months. Yeah, okay, and then I would have walked away saying, "Oh, I'm not paying that renewal cost again." right? But had I walked away after the first 6 months, I'd have gone back 6 months and put that stuff back straight back on, right? Okay. So that investment that I made, the financial investment, I look back and I think that's money well spent. It's definitely money well spent, right? Because I would not be where I am today, right? Okay, had I not done that. That's been my you like I say, it's just stocks and shares and ISAs, right? So it's all of that. You can pump money into that, right? Yeah. So I've pumped money into myself here, right? Okay, yeah. And obviously, it's not this investment plan is not a growth plan. It's a let's reduce the plan, and it's worked, right? So it's changed, it's changed me definitely, right? And the people may be umming and ahhing over the financial investment, but it's an investment that you won't regret, right? If you stick to the process, right? Okay, and you follow the rules uh, and you believe in yourself that you can do this, right? Then that money will pay itself off with ease, definitely. And then all the excess clothing, put it on Vinted, right? And you make your money back.
Amazing work. Chat, final question for you. If you were to give 3 tips to anyone listening, either on a borderline of joining or it's already part of any other program or our program, are struggling or anything, what 3 tips would you give them to kind of just say, keep going, or when they're demotivated, and which just basically keep going?
So look, I guess the first thing is that if you are thinking of joining Affinity, but you haven't done so yet, right? Okay, and you may not be like me in terms of size wise. Okay, you may be smaller, whatever, right? Yeah. Don't hesitate, in my honest opinion, right? Have a chat, with either three of the Affinity members, right? Yeah, and just start that initial conversation, okay, right? You may at the end of it decide, okay, maybe it's not for me, right? Yeah, but it's just have the conversation, right, and see where that leads you, right? And give it a go, right? Because you've got nothing to lose. And remember, the Affinity is not it's not always about losing and shredding the weight. Yeah, there's people that have joined that are trying to tone, and trying to achieve different goals, right? So it caters for everything, and you know if you're already in the program and you're at that point of, oh, do I continue? Do I not continue? Right? Okay. In my honest opinion, right, if you're a large person like me, right, it's a no-brainer, but to continue for at least 12 to 18 months, right, yeah, for that level of support and that guidance, right, yeah, okay. Now, don't give up, just don't hesitate, just renew, right, okay. And in terms of motivation, right, yeah, and I've been there and I've done it, and I didn't. I fell off the bandwagon a few times. Right, like, I can't be bothered with this. This is long, I mean, allow this food malarkey and all that rubbish, right? I need some beers and stuff, right? But you look back and you think, no, I feel like crap now because I've just gone and had a bad weekend or a bad day, right? Yeah, the next day I feel sluggish. I feel rubbish, right? Okay, and I do, in my honest opinion, the next time you come and do your measurements, right, okay, and you see that you haven't kind of moved on those measurements or those pictures, it's like, right, get my shit into gear, right, okay, get back on it, then, and you should literally be able to, your measurements should say to yourself, right, okay, no, I need to work harder, and I need to push this harder. So let's get going again, so don't give up, because it's worth it, and what I've learned over the course of the 18 months, right? Yeah, it's a life lesson, okay. So there's so much I'll take away from this, right, in terms of what I then need to do going forward, and I know I finished with you, was it last weekend, right, Vinny?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this week's my plan's still in place. My breakfasts are made, my lunches are made, my gym sessions are in. Well, I haven't reported it back to you yet, but it's there. So continue the same program. Don't stop.
Amazing, man. Really, really amazing. Thank you so much for your time and answering these questions, Chet. Super, super insightful. Your journey, the 22 kilos down, and obviously starting position versus where you are right now, not just physically, but also there's the mental side of it, more positive, clearer mindset, more active and willing to go out and do stuff. So, Yeah, really useful, really helpful. So again, from the bottom of both of our hearts, thank you for your time and sort of taking this time to chat with us.
Thank you,
Thank
Nikhil, and
you.
thank you, Vinay. Thank you, Jamie, all three of you. Right, thanks, Affinity, to get me where I am. I will be back, Nick.
Awesome, brother. Awesome.